Hi, you guys. Well, here I am for Denise Richards and her Wild Things, Season 1, Episode 5. Recap and gossip dump. This should be a good one. I have a little insight into some things that were said on this show that I want to share with you today. Oh, I can't wait. All right, so like and subscribe and hit the notification button. You know the drill. I really appreciate it. And let's get into the fun. In order to understand today's gossip dump, let's start with the goddesses. Here's Charlie Sheen with the two girls that he lived with, and they sometimes, I guess, had sex together and sometimes they didn't. We'll get more into that. As you can see, Charlie Sheen is definitely doing drugs at this time. So Charlie Sheen truly believed at this time that a man could be with two women and would be the most happy. But what he didn't figure out in his model was that the two women needed to know each other first and like each other before they went ahead with being brought into the same household with the man. And this didn't last long for him. These women only were with him for 6 months, and then he abruptly got a girlfriend after in a more traditional way. I think she was an adult entertainer. Let's just say he was a fan of her videos before he started dating his next girlfriend. So this was one of the goddesses. Her name was Bree Olson, or Rachel Oberlin. She was born October 7th, 1986, to give you an idea of how young she was when Charlie Sheen was with her. She's a pornographic actress and a model. Okay. She performed in over 170 adult films from 2006 to 2011, which is why Charlie Sheen was a fan. And she did retire from the pornography industry. Here's the other goddess, Natalie Kenley. I'm pretty sure she was under 18 when she was doing all this with Charlie. I can't be 100% sure, but based on her being born in 1986, I kind of feel that way. She was a cheerleader at Sherman Oaks High School in Los Angeles and ended up getting arrested for underage drinking in Lake Havasu. Well, a lot of kids do that. But anyway, Lake Havasu is a spring break hotspot. I've been there. It's really fun. I did it during spring break, too. MTV used to go and you could do wet T-shirt contests and MTV would put you on TV. It was a whole thing. All right. She was a popular marijuana model. I don't know. What do you like? Put a joint in your mouth and put on a bikini? She's been regularly featured in Cali Chronic X magazine and even graced the cover of the February 2010 issue. I guess they haven't updated her Wikipedia in a while. Here's Charlie Sheen's Tiger Mansion where the goddesses lived. It's now worth $9.1 million, but at one time he bought it for $2 million. This was his party pad where he used to have all his adult entertainers and people doing drugs and partying at. Yeah, it was like his little Playboy mansion, or let's call it a shadow mansion. If you haven't seen that show I did with Jennifer, who lived at the Playboy Mansion on the Dishing Drama Dana show, you need to get in there and listen to that one so you know what shadow mansion means. Now, today you're going to see Paris Hilton be brought up that she's a quote-unquote runner. Kathy Hilton tells a story about this, in regards to Paris and her difficult times when she was skipping school and she wasn't doing what she was supposed to. What's funny about this is, I dated a man who Paris dated. And so I have a really funny story about what happened with her and him, and it has to do with this runner thing. So I'm going to tell you in a minute. So we start the show and Denise Richards is giving us some beauty tips. She does Botox a little bit, and then she does salmon sperm facials, which are injections of some sort of sperm in your face. And she's like, I got compliments after it. So I wanted to look into that. Now, I know that Denise Richards actually really loves peptides, and that's what her real beauty secret is. I think she's said it publicly a few times. Peptides are a really hot thing right now in Hollywood, and I'm learning all about them. I'm trying to get a doctor to come on my show and educate us all because this is the new hot thing. And to be clear, a semaglutide is a peptide. Here's the results of a person who had a salmon sperm facial. And as you can see, the results are really good. I might try this. But of course, when you put needles in your face, it's going to generate collagen. I don't know how much the sperm helps, but apparently it does make you look much more refreshed. That's my doors being done in the background. The scene really doesn't make a lot of sense, except we see that Denise and Aaron have a good sex life because they kind of get turned on talking about it. We don't you know, I hope they got a free product out of it. That's all I'm going to say on that scene. So we jump and Denise Richards is going with Lola to go see Sammy at her apartment. And what we find out is they're having a fight over like stealing each other's clothing. And Lola really wants her favorite tank top back. We all know what that's like when you have a shirt that fits perfect and is impossible to find. And I guess Sammy took hers. To Sammy's defense, she's like, she stole a lot of my clothes and I don't even remember this tank top. And Denise is sort of in the middle trying to navigate it. But what's really mean is Sammy won't even let Lola come up in her apartment because she doesn't feel comfortable in the current like climate with her. And so that's kind of rude. And you can tell that Lola's feelings are hurt and it's not totally about the tank top. And Denise doesn't really know what to do. We go into Sammy's apartment. We see a little more of it now. And actually, I think this building that she's in, and I think it's in West Hollywood, and if it's the one I'm thinking of, and it's very, very, very expensive. So I'm like shocked at the amount of money that Sammy's making taking off her clothes on OnlyFans, just saying. And I think we're going to learn more about, how profitable it is to do like, I guess, toned down sexualization of yourself in the internet. So there's a few things that we find out. Sammy is paid with all of her money. She got this apartment, she got a car, she got a nose job, she got a boob job, and she's getting some sort of like jeweled grill. So then Denise Richards struggles to deal with the Sheen famous name for her children because a lot comes with it, which is, I think, she's tying some of this to Sammy wanting to get a nose job. And so she meets up with Kathy Hilton to discuss, troubles between siblings and fights and things. And, Kathy basically comes in, orders a glass of wine. Denise has water. And she relaxes and starts to say, listen, kids are tough. They have their ups and downs, and it is a lot of pressure. And Paris was a runner, and this is where the runner is mentioned, and I had to tell you about this. All right, I went outside to tell you this story really quick. So I used to date this guy who was a big producer. We loved to like get together and party together and like, I don't know, spend a ton of money and have fun, okay? So, but I like was infatuated with him because he was such a character, and he was super like respected in our social circles, which was pretty high up in terms of like, blue blood families that happen to be in LA, like, guys that were real jerks, but they came from big families like Murdoch. Okay. He was like in that social circle. In fact, one of his best friends. So anyway, Paris starts dating the guy that I'm with. Okay. And I'm upset because he like stopped seeing me to go see her. And then he comes back and he's like, it was a disaster. Like, I'm sorry I left in a way, and like, I'm back and I made a big mistake. Okay. And he also dated Pamela Anderson for a long time. Not like a super long time, but like a few months. Okay. Let's say stability wasn't his thing. Anyway, but he tells me the funniest story. He's like, I ended up seeing Paris for this awesome weekend at the Waldorf Astoria in New York. And he goes, and we did all this like over the top stuff. Cause this guy would like drop $50K, in a night kind of thing. And he's like, and I went and we spent all this time together. And he was like, I was really starting to like her. And he goes, but then all of a sudden, he's like, she just took off and left and literally went to like another country. So like in the middle of the night, she left him when they were like on their third day of like hanging out. And he was staying in her place and left him in her apartment and went with a bunch of friends to like another country. And he was like, with no note or anything, just took off. And then he was like, I guess I figured out that it wasn't going to work and it was over. And so when Kathy says that Paris Hilton's a runner, I mean, she's a runner. Like she left a man like in her apartment and just took off and never came back at the Waldorf. Anyway, I saw him a few more times after that, but then I was like, this is really toxic and unhealthy. And, I broke that habit, let's just say. It's at this moment I want to remind you of a slight difference between the Sheen kids and the Hilton family. And that is that Big Kathy wanted the famous last name because she knew that it would give her family a lot of power and guarantee the future economics of the family. So sought out someone to marry her beautiful daughter, Kathy Hilton, that was of, good and famous name in LA. And she did that, for all of the daughters, but it didn't work out for them like it did for Kathy. Kathy actually really fell for the guy she was kind of pushed towards, Rick. And they ended up having a really long and successful marriage, but it doesn't always work that way. Now, Pisces women are very, very loyal, and they'll stick through thick and thin. And men generally that are not broken really come to love that. So I'm sure that, Rick really appreciated Kathy's support and strength. And that probably was why they fell in love and stayed so committed to each other, because of the loyalty factor. But not easy to accomplish in Beverly Hills. But she wanted the name, and the kids love the name, and they're not suffering from any, problem because of the name, really. So then we hear a story about how Denise Richards was neighbors with Paris Hilton, and her nephew thought she was super hot when she'd come out of her house to get the mail or something. And that was a big deal. And then also we found out that Denise Richardson was, understood this whole story about the goddesses and Charlie Sheen, and that it didn't work out well for him, that it only lasted 6 months, and it just didn't work. We also are reminded that Kathy Hilton has a lot of grandchildren. Barron now has 3 kids. Paris Hilton has 2, and Nikki Hilton has 3. So that's a lot of grandkids for Kathy, 8 in total. That's tiring. Maybe that's why she looked so tired on this week's episode of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. It made me tired. So we learned that Denise Richards has a business idea. She's going to keep posting videos about herself cooking to try to get a cooking show where a regular starlet like herself that loves to cook but doesn't know how gets with famous people that do know how to cook and learn. And so we see her doing almost like a pilot for her show with a woman who I don't know. Her name is Brooke Williamson. That doesn't mean anything. I don't watch cooking shows. Now we see Denise Richards in this gorgeous kitchen. I can't tell where it is, but it's beautiful and clean, and it's not her apartment. So mysterious house she's in, doing this video with this chef. And we see them first make a margarita, and they start drinking, and then they cook, and she makes kind of a complicated hors d'oeuvre, and she's really proud of herself because she's never actually completed a complicated dish before, but with the chef's help and recipe, she was able to, and she was like, this is exactly what I want to do for my show. So we see that. So here she is. She was on Top Chef, I guess, for a season, I think, and maybe she does other things. She's super cute, and she is Aaron's hall pass, we find out, and Brad Pitt is Denise Richards. So in the final scene of today's show, we see Sammy get the unveiling of her nose, and she's really excited. This was her old nose. She has a new nose now, and she cries because this nose that we see here in this picture has been holding her back her whole life, and she hasn't been able to model or anything, and it was that awful to her. And Denise Richards realizes that maybe Sammy has an issue with how she perceives herself. And that's where we really end the episode. That's it, kids. Off to Europe. Next time I see you, I'll be doing a video from there. It'll be fun. I'll make it interesting. I'll show you where I'm at. Ooh, you're going to be excited. I am.